everybody. Welcome to another edition of No Limits. Yes, am I loud enough? I'll get louder if you want. If you want to go deaf, unless you have hearing aids, it doesn't make a lick of difference. But reunited and it feels so good. Don't expect me to go on American Idol with that voice, otherwise I'll break a Memorex class. Hello, everybody. I'm glad to have. My name is Scott Morgan with No Limits. I'm glad to have my colleague Rachel Galvin on the program. And
hi, everybody.
There she is. Boy, I'll tell you, she's made for the camera, made for audio. I have a radio voice and a radio face, but look at her. You guys can't go out there and get excited watching this woman and shame in the eyes of Gomer Pyle. We've been talking about doing this a while, and guess what? The time is here. Rachel, glad to have you on the big show.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you, Scott.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. Good evening, Cerberowski. He's one of those guys going to get warmed up before long, and hopefully get the rest of Josh and the guys on. No hockey, so you got no excuse not to come on the program. We're going to talk about Rachel's acting career and our time as colleagues, and address any questions in the chat room. I'm going to go over her story, and then I have a few other things. And let me tell you, folks, this will be the fastest 45 to 55 minutes in programming. And for those of you out there that think I'm a one-trick pony with sports, you are wrong. I like to do it all, but I have to have the right content material. And I got her. All right. Oh, me darn. Oh, you can tell what the program and the vibes are going to be like, Rach. Really? Seriously?
Well, I don't know what to say.
I don't know what to say. Well, I tell you right now, in order to avoid saying bad language on there, I like really and seriously, because that way, that's in the dictionary. The other stuff, forget about it. All right. Let's get to it with Rachel Galvin, and she is an actress, writer, and more. All right, Rachel, let's talk about you starting acting in theater in 1996. You talk about writing your own pieces and performing them and taking acting classes. Give it to me.
Okay, yeah. I had something big happen in my life that was not good, and it led me into acting. I decided to completely change my life, and I started out doing acting classes in Colorado, where I lived, and just dove straight into anything I could find theater-wise. Did a lot of auditions. I did a lot of plays, and I was in a group of women that we wrote our own material. So we did kind of like one-woman performances as a group. So I did all kinds. I think I had 4 or 5 performances with them, which was great because I could do both my writing chops and my acting chops at once, and people could really see something that I wrote and created. And I was in a great on-film acting class, and at some point I decided I'm going to move to LA. Do you want to go into that already?
We are now in 1997. Take it from there, Los Angeles. Go ahead.
Okay. And everybody said, you're crazy. You know, I was still fairly new in the business. My acting coach is like, no way. And my family said, no way. I basically ran away and went off to LA. And I didn't know anybody. I was forbidden to go. And it just happened, and I don't believe in like coincidences, but my friend said, hey, I'm going to LA next week. Do you want to come with me? So I said, sure. And I told my family, I'm going with my friend to LA. And I packed enough for a week. And I went knowing full well that I wasn't coming back. And I didn't know anyone. I lived in a hostel. It was very dangerous. There was a co-ed hostel with no air conditioning, and stuff was getting stolen every day. Wow. Until I met some people, and I finally moved away from that. And I just audited acting classes like crazy, and just kind of acclimated to being in LA. So I ended up working for a talent management company. So I had access to the breakdowns, which is amazing. now anybody can audition now for pretty much anything on their own with casting networks and different things. But at the time, it was a lot more isolated. It was just really agents that were getting access to the breakdowns and managers. So I had access and could submit myself to things, which was great. And I also worked for Universal Studios on the weekend as a tram tour guide, which I'd always wanted to do. So I had a really jam-packed life there. And I was doing dance classes and acting classes, and I was performing with a group called First Stage, where we did theater workshops and acting workshops. And I directed some of my own stuff. I wrote my own stuff. I was in a lot of other people's stuff. It was a lot. It was really a good experience, but I mostly did a lot of extra work at the time. And I don't know if you have any specific questions. I'm just rambling on here.
No, you're doing great. You're telling your story because I've got something to add there. So you're telling me that you're talking about being well known in Hollywood, age 20. You can see me a lot. That was also Babylon 5. Is that correct?
Well, I was in, among my extra work, the thing that I'm known best for is Halloween H2O. Okay. And you can see me. A lot of people are like, oh my God, I saw you on Halloween H2O. Because I was a student and you can see me about 5 times. There is a scene with Lee Curtis talking to all the students before they go on a field trip. And all the main people, Josh Hartnett and everybody, are sitting there. And right across from them, you can see me very obviously. And also when they're running to the bus, I'm the first person running for the bus. And then if you really look carefully, I'm elsewhere. But that was my best experience as an extra. I was face to face with Jamie Lee Curtis. I met her mother, who of course, Janet Leigh was in Psycho. I got to meet everybody on the set. They actually threw me a birthday party. It was actually around this time because it was my birthday and my birthday's next week. And they bought me a birthday cake. And everybody sang happy birthday to me. Like, it wasn't the main people, but all the extras, all the crew sang happy birthday. And it was amazing.
All right, I have a great story for Universal, but go ahead and finish your thought. You ready for this one? We'll make it really loud.
Yeah, so that was my best experience. I also was in Babylon 5, which is also something I was really featured in. I was the wife of the Enfili refugee king, so to speak. So I was an alien, and I was all made up in prosthetics, which took 3 hours at 5:30 in the morning. And I was unrecognizable. And we got extra money for like sand falling on us because we're supposed to be bombed. So we're like, hiding from the bombing and the sand's coming down. And there was fire on the set because they had a bonfire. So we got paid extra for that. And then after everybody was done, they asked me to stay late and work with Bruce Boxleitner, the lead, and do a photo shoot to promote the episode, which I think was in TV Guide. Right. So I got to do that with me, my husband in the scene. I think his name's Tony Abed Tamarco, I think. And Bruce Boxleitner. So those are like the 2 big things that I did, but I can go into more, but I know you have a story.
Oh, that's it. Oh, I have a really good story.
Okay.
So I go out to Universal Studios, LA. I know they got one in Orlando. I don't care about going to Orlando. I like to go to the original ones. Those are the best ones. Universal Studios Hollywood is where you got to go. Nothing against the people in Orlando. Anyways, the park is getting ready to close. Of course, they have those things like Lucille Ball, really well known over there. And of course, you have to go there to see the Jaws exhibit. And the tour guides are saying that if you can go out there, that we collect everything on the planet. We don't throw anything away. That would make Sanford and Son definitely make it look like nothing with a junkyard because they take everything. But here's the story. As Paul Harvey would say, the rest of the story. Sure, you've heard of Paul Harvey, right? Everybody in the media usually has. So I'm flying through the park because I know I have to get out a certain time. And I mean, I'm running faster than O.J. Simpson. My goodness. Of course, I was way younger than that and a lot heavier. And again, O.J. Simpson, putting in a nice kind way, hurts, that kind of stuff. Running through airports. I'm running through Universal Studios. What do you think happens along the way? I see a mascot barreled into this guy, and he landed on the floor, laying all over the place, and see ya, and bolted, man. And all I could do is see is this mascot going out there, saying, looking at me, what did you just do to me? Flatten me. Back then, I was fast, man. I wouldn't run for track, but that was a fun story. Felt bad for the guy, but when you're flying like I was way back then, good stuff. I don't know what you think of that crazy story, but Boris thinks that your story is cool. So go ahead. I mean, that's my Universal story. I enjoy Universal Studios. You know, you end up going to the Lucille Ball and everything else. I can't remember so far back. I'd love to go back there again down the line. But Universal Studios is the one place in LA that I really thoroughly enjoyed. And everybody that's been to LA knows you can go on the studio tours and all that. And yeah, just go wherever I can go and see what I have and see as much as possible. But that's my Universal Studios story.
Well, I can tell you a little bit about Universal Studios. The process to work there was very difficult. And it was like I said, it was a dream. When I was like 10 years old, I went on the tour and I was like, I want to do that one day. And I had to audition 3 times with a lot of other people. So you go through, if you get picked, then they go through another audition, another audition. It was very difficult to get in. And then it was like a training of, I think it was a week training, like intense training. Wow. And we got this big 3-ring binder of information that not only included the script, but also all this extra information. Because if the tram stopped, which it often did, because there was another tram in front of us or something broke down, we couldn't say, oh, we're broken down, or, you know, this person in front of us is stalling us. We had to automatically segue into another story to make it seem seamless, like we're stopping for a reason. So if I stopped near Alfred Hitchcock's offices, I could just say, speaking of directors, and then go into Alfred Hitchcock and a nice anecdote about him. Or if I stopped at Jaws, I could talk about Steven Spielberg or, different things like that. And then sometimes there was an area that was just bushes. So I was like, look, it's shrubbery. And I would go into the Monty Python, nice to see me. And some people would get that. Some people would be like, what? But, sometimes you're really grasping at straws to come up with something because maybe you were stalled several times and you're running out of material. But they also had a little music box you could hit. And I'd be like, remember this one? And I'd hit the button and it would be like Back to the Future theme, something like that. So it could be a lot of fun. And I had a lot of celebrities, not a lot, but some celebrities on my tour, which was neat. I think Michael Stipe was on my tour. And what's her name? Medicine Woman. What is her name? Can't think of her name right now. She was on my tour. But it was a 45-minute tour 5 times a day. So it was really hard on the voice. And that's why I only did it on the weekends. You'd be in the break room, which was not the best. And just waiting to get asked to come on board. So it was a little tedious, but I really liked the job itself quite a bit. And I wish I would have kept that binder. I was like, I'll never forget the tour. Well, I forgot it. And that had so much great information in it.
Wow. Okay. Great story. So I'll talk about the fact that you were in Power Rangers, Ellen, Clueless TV show. And many others.
Back to the extra work. I also was on the Clueless TV show, which was also another great experience. You can see me in that too. I was a nerd, a science nerd. So it was the science fair. And I was doing one of those famous volcanoes that you always see kids doing. And you can see me just, bumbling around the science fair in the background. But all of the cast was so nice. And we all kind of hung out afterward. And Donald Faison, I'm not sure if I pronouncing his last name right. I actually saw him later on at an ice cream place in LA. And he still was nice to me, talked to me. Great cast. Ellen was another great experience. I was in the episode after Ellen came out. This is not her most recent show. It's the fictional show. And she had just come out and she was dating for the first time and being introduced to her date's daughter. And I was in the movie theater scene. You could see me in the background walk by and buying popcorn. And then they kept me later. Again, they kept me to stay later than everybody else. And they said, we want you to be a different character. And I changed my clothes, and I was in the elevator with Ellen and like three other people. So that was great. And I was hanging out with Ellen at craft service, eating whatever we're eating. And I think it was Jo Beth Williams was her girlfriend. Right. And both so nice, so funny, like naturally funny. So it was a really good experience. And the food was great. That was like the best lunch that they had for us. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Power Rangers, that one was not as fun of an experience. It was another 5:30 in the morning, if I remember right. I was really tired. Everybody was grumpy. I was chosen to be one of the few people in the opening scene for the episode, sitting like a cute girl sitting on the countertop there. And then later you can see me walking with someone in the gym. It was Power Rangers Turbo. So the episode was called Little Big Man. And I think I was there 2 days, if I remember right. So that was one day. The second day, what was the most difficult? It was outside all day in like 100-degree heat. And we're sitting on metal bleachers in the sun for hours. And we're just waiting, watching like kind of like what is it called? Field day. Just out there all day. So that was really difficult. We were getting a little dehydrated. So, you never know what you're going to get. And a lot of times extra work can be really tedious, which is why I don't do it anymore. But you do get, like, I was on the practice a lot. They all knew me on the practice. And that was also a good experience.
All right. So as we transition to move to Florida, we're going to go to a station break with Candy Ebling. Go ahead, Can.
You are listening to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. If you have not yet subscribed, if you see that red subscribe button, hit it, like us, share us with all your friends and family. We talk all kinds of great stuff. Monday nights, we talk baseball. Tuesday nights, we talk football. Wednesday nights, Scott does special interviews here and there. Then you never know what's going to be coming up on Sports Exchange. We talk about almost everything. Thursday nights, we talk baseball and NHL. And then again, we talk on Fire Up. You never know. So stay tuned to find out. But this show is sponsored by the South Florida Tribune Publishing Company. Published a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by your host, Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth. He talks about his 40-plus years in the media business and how it has evolved and changed. It is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. There is also a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where you can get his book. There's also we have a merchandise store and a plethora of great content. Go check it out. If you ever want to sponsor or advertise, call Scott, 954-304-4941. And if you ever have show ideas or want to be a guest, email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. You can also always listen to us audio version wherever you get your podcast. Back to you, Scott.
Thank you, Candy. What a great transition. So we're going to LA. Now we're going to Florida. So let's talk about the roles that you amassed when you were in Florida.
Okay. So when I ended up moving out here with someone originally, and that didn't work out, but I ended up staying. And when I first got here, I didn't know anybody again. I was clueless. I had no idea how to get into acting. So it took me quite a while to get going, a couple of years to really fortify that. And I started out in film school, films here. And, I was in a lot of lead roles. And I got lucky with that. And then just independent films, a lot of stuff people are not going to know necessarily, the films, but I've been in more films than I can fit on a resume on a page. I mean, I should have counted them, but I mean, a ton of films. And I've done a little bit of everything, from the girl next door to a teacher to a reporter to a serial killer, which was my favorite because people don't
Really?
expect it.
Yeah, it's amazing. I was looking at that serial killer, and you have criminal minds, okay? And I see that a lot of serial killers. I haven't watched that much because that's a little dark for my taste, but
Yeah.
imagine you being a serial killer. Really? Seriously? Tell me
Well,
about
okay. I was in a couple things as a serial killer. The one that I'll talk about first, it was called Lockbox. And it's kind of a little hard to explain, but basically this psychologist is talking to me and I'm in a box. So I'm really aggressive back to her, explaining about why I'm a serial killer and that I was abused as a child. And it gets pretty graphic. I can't even watch it. That's how graphic it is. So I've only shown people parts of it because it's too much for me to watch. But I had to be in the scene. We're kind of matched up so that we have to be the same height. So I was wearing stilettos to try to get taller, and that still wasn't tall enough. So they had me on top of a sandbag in stilettos to be the same height as her. Instead of I don't think they had an apple box. I was on a sandbag, and it wasn't quite the same height. So they're like, okay, now squat down, squat up, go up and down in stilettos. It was really difficult. And to make me look kind of, greasy and dark, they sprayed so much junk in my hair. And it was a very difficult from that aspect, but I loved it. And when the film was shown, someone was really scared of me. She's like backing away from me. She's like, that was you? I said, yeah. So that was kind of great. And then I was in another movie that was kind of interesting, where the whole thing was done in my voiceover. So I'm acting it out, but the voice is like separate. So it was a little bit off, but it won awards. And my character was a nerd that is in love with her boss. And the boss takes her out to say, hey, you should get a little more social with everybody. But I think it's a date. So, it kind of goes downhill from there. And I'm like, are you going to call me? And he said, yeah, I'm going to call you. And then I'm in my house, like pacing, why didn't he call? And then it turns out that I killed him. That's why. So that's why he wasn't calling me, because I had killed him. So that was pretty good. It had a lot of extra flashback fantasy scenes where we got married, where we were on the beach. So it used different venues for that. So it was a little bit more interesting. So I like to play something more out of the box like that. Right now, lately, I've gotten a lot of like reporter roles because people see me. I'm a host, which we can talk about. And so that's natural for them to see me as that. So I recently was in Sisters of Vengeance, the short film and the feature film. And I was a news anchor for that. The short is done. It's been to con. It's been like, they're promoting it all over the place, this show, this movie, because it has to do with human trafficking. And it's a dark comedy, which is an interesting twist, but it's getting a lot of reaction. And they're working on the feature now. So the feature's not done. But we shot that one down in Miami. We closed down the whole road for that day that I was there. And they had kind of a parade down the street. And I was in that. And then I was interviewing people. So I did that. And I just was in From Brooklyn to Boca as a news anchor, which is, I was originally in the pilot as the girl next door, a Jewish New Yorker. And they decided when they did the play instead of the film for now, that they didn't want me in that role. They chose a different person. But then they ended up kind of creating a role for me as a news anchor with a strong Brooklyn accent. And they projected it on the screen within the play, which was really interesting. So I just did that. That just happened. And I was just cast in something else that I don't know all the details about yet. So lately I've gotten a lot of character roles, because people know I do accents. I do New York. I do different types of New York. I do different types of Southern. I've done English, which I'm not as thrilled with. But yeah, so I get a lot of character stuff, but I'd like to do more regular. In fact, I did something else that I'm very proud of recently called Our Family Pride, where I was a businesswoman, and they're working on that. And we just showed the sizzle reel at the Savoir-Faire Film Festival, which happened just this last weekend. So Saturday night, they showed the sizzle reel, and it's going to be a series now, it looks like. So I'm extremely excited about that. That's still in the works as far as post-production and distribution. So it's LGBTQ. It's about a guy that comes out of the closet and how it affects his family, his friends, everything. And I play this business person that deals with him. So yeah, I've got all kinds of stuff going on.
I got a great story for you on Miami back in the 80s when I was a lot lighter. You talked about having to be lifted up a certain way with some of the things. Can you imagine this? Me back in the 1980s. My late aunt and uncle had a flea market down there. They needed somebody to be Santa Claus. They called on me to do it. Mind you, Rach, I was like 105, 110 pounds. How can you have a skinny Santa Claus like that? And I think it was little Haiti. You know what they ended up doing with me? They stuffed a couple pillows in me just to make me look like one. And of course, they have speed the clock back to 25. I wasn't at the pillows. I got the gray hair and I got the beard, or, depending on when I shave it again. But then I had to be in pillows in Miami just to look like Santa Claus, looked like there's a little bit of meat on there. In fact, another interesting story back in the 80s was my uncle had to lay me off from a roofing job because I was too skinny, and they had to fatten me up a little bit. And then I came back 2 weeks later. That's how skinny I was. But think about a Santa Claus having to have pillows to make the part. That's what you said. They kind of mentioned it a little bit, trigger things, which has brought back a nice memory. So what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about your writing, your film festivals. And then what I'm going to do is take over the conversation in question format. I just want to make sure that everybody knows that we want to make sure that Rachel Galvin has an opportunity to tell her story, and she's doing it so eloquently.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. No, it's pretty interesting. We have a lot to work with here. So you say you've been a writer since 1997 and an editor for many years, in addition to doing some screenplays. And now we're going to talk about your book. Go over the chronology of all three things. Okay.
I actually started writing when I was in LA. Again, coincidence. I kind of fell into it, right? I won't get into the whole story, but basically I was working as a salesperson, as like another side job in LA for Talent Magazine. And I was doing cold call sales. And as soon as I started, the publisher said, "You can do sales, but I want you to be my writer." And I, out of the blue, I don't know what he saw in me, but he said, "I want you to be my theater critic." And because he knew I was an actor. So I actually was a theater critic for Talent Magazine, which was actually a newspaper, even though it was called a magazine. And I did some really great theater reviews, I have to say. They were some of my best, I think. And so I got a little taste of writing for him. And then I worked also with Creative Child Magazine. And the person that was involved with that, her daughter was an actress in our Talent Magazine and in the management company I worked with, and her husband was a big time producer, if I remember right. So I worked with their magazine. I wrote something for them. So I just did a little taste in LA. And then when I moved to Florida, like I said, I didn't know what to do with myself. I was helping my boyfriend at the time with his business, running his cell phone company, whole other thing that I was doing. And I was starting to act, but I watched a movie called Almost Famous, which you probably know, which is about a guy that ends up on a tour bus writing about the band. And after watching that by myself, because nobody else, certain person wouldn't go with me, I came out of that and I said, that's what I want to do. I want to be a writer. And I took those like 3 clips or whatever that I had from Talent Magazine, and I decided I was going to write. So we used to get a lot of salespeople knocking on our door at the cell phone company asking us to advertise with them. And one of them was a guy that a lot of locals will know named Bill Heaton. And Bill Heaton is famous for being unfortunately he's not with us anymore, but very persistent. And he was asking us to advertise. And I said, you know what? We will do an ad with you if you can get me into the Forum newspaper and as a writer. So he helped me do one of my first articles was with the Forum. I also did Our Town News. And it just kind of went from there. I was getting paid like $25 an article, like nothing.
Right.
And I started doing I worked with neighborhood news, doing a lot of restaurant reviews. Pretty soon it went from all these little local papers to the Sun Sentinel. I wrote for all the forums, which is like Deerfield Beach had one, Delray, they all were different names, Boynton Beach, Lake Worth, Coral Springs Forum, Parkland Gazette, like all of them. I wrote for Palm Beach Illustrated many times. I wrote for Boca Raton Observer, Capture Life magazine, which isn't around anymore, which is a beautiful magazine. Right. And then, so after doing all that, I wanted to write for City Smart magazine. And it was a new magazine in Coral Springs. And I said, I want to write for you. And she said, well, do you know how to write about wine? Do you know anything about wine? Because we need a wine writer. And I was like, absolutely. I had no clue anything about wine. So I went out to like 4 different liquor stores, grilled the people there. I got all these books from the library. I did all this research. I wrote one of the best articles I've ever written about wine. She loved it. She hired me, and I wrote for her for years. And then I was working for another company doing menial sales and stuff. And then I had a conflict there, and I said, I need to do something more than just writing. Do you have anything else? The next day, the editor and the advertising coordinator both quit, and I ended up taking both their positions. Okay. So I had this big position with them, and I did that for many years until I decided to move on. And that's when I found the Observer. So now we can talk about that.
Well, in a moment. Now I have an interesting writing story out in Tampa. I'm north of Detroit, I'm with some friends at the University of South Florida. And, Wayne Fonts is a coach. I went to school with Mike Fonts' son. So I was working for the Observer. Not the Observer. Well, actually, Tampa Tribune. Go back to 1985, 86. Lions lost the game to the Bucks. And a bunch of us went over to Hooters, and we got hammered a bit. Of course, losing to the Bucks back then, you do get hammered. It stinks. But I had a deadline that night. What do you think happens? I wrote one of my best stories ever, and I told my editor I was over there. I said, "You're going to write like this." He said, "That's one of the best stories you've ever written." I said, "Rick, can I tell you something, my friend?" "What's that?" "I had a few beers after the Lions lost. Scott, I ain't going to give you a hard time about that at all. If you're that creative when you write and you drink a couple of beers, you can do it all you want." This guy was one of the best editors I've ever worked with. I can tell you another story out in Kissimmee, Florida, where I had a situation where the Astros had trained, where it was a brand new stadium, and I couldn't go ahead and transmit the story 5 times. Seriously, really, 5 times. It stinks. And then I had to dictate 2 of them over the phone, and Rick was great. So you talk about the adversity of thriving, because writers definitely are grown accustomed to deadlines and observers. We know what we have to do. So when you tell me about that, I think it's pretty good. It's really cool stuff about you being in the wine, me drinking beer, had a great story, and then you having some wine story to lead to where you're going to go. But before you're going to go to the Observer, we're going to talk about some of the screenplays you did and the book that you wrote called Basics of the Biz. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, for a while I was writing screenplays for people. People would give me their book and want me to convert it into a screenplay. I wrote something called Gaze of Our Lives, which I don't even remember what that was, but I guess it aired. And and I wrote a great TV show that I don't think the guy ever did anything with, that he had the idea. I came up with the dialogue and everything. So I got paid for, what I did. I wrote someone else's life story. I started it. He never finished it. I wrote a cookbook for somebody, started doing that. I did, I started doing a psychological book for someone. Again, like usually like managers for writers or publishers want, let's say, 3 chapters to start out with. So he did 3 chapters and then he didn't want to continue. So I started doing something for a very famous cook that I had a problem with, and that didn't finish. So I did a lot of little random things. And then I ended up remembering all the stuff I learned as a talent manager, back in the day, working in LA. And I also became a talent manager on my own here. So I had my own clients when I was in Florida also. And I decided just to download all that information I had into a book. So Basics of the Biz. This is my book.
Okay.
It's like 100 and I forgot how many pages this is, 180 something pages. And the first half of it is my experiences in Los Angeles and a little bit in Florida, kind of what we just went over, but more in detail. And then the second half is about how to become an actor. So headshots, resumes, acting classes, unions, that type of thing. Why do you want to do it? It has some like goal sheets in the back. So it has a little bit of everything. And I actually wrote this before I really became really too much into the profession of writing. And then I redid it. It was like 2001, I think, when I originally wrote this. And then I didn't do anything with it. I left it on the shelf. It wasn't until 2009 that I published it. So, of course, I had to revamp it at that time.
Right.
And it's on Amazon. So you can find it on Amazon, Basics of the Biz.
Right.
And I took it to, local authors events and Miami Book Fair and things like that. So I forgot what else you asked after that.
That's okay. You talk about screenplays. You did some of those, right?
Yeah, like I said, I wrote some stuff for different people. I wrote a lot of my own too, that I performed some of them some of them I workshopped in that first stage group that I was in. And in fact, I have one that's a short, could be a play or a film that I've thought about maybe making it into a film. But I starred in it back then and it wouldn't be right for me now. So I'd have to find someone. It was kind of like, Phoebe Buffay on Friends. It was kind of a ditzy character that I played. So I'd have to find someone like that if I actually end up doing it. And then there's like 2 other people in the film and it was based on a true story. And I did a great film that I wrote that was this woman's story. It was about her father who had come from Poland during World War II and ended up in Cuba and then New York. And it was a great story that I just, did the dialogue for her. And again, she never finished it. And I don't know, I lost touch with her. I have all her original notes, which I can't throw out. Hopefully I can find her someday or her family to give it to them because I can't bring myself to get rid of them. That was years ago. I don't know if she's still alive. So, yeah, so I did quite a bit of different aspects of writing. And I can transition from that to what I'm doing now, which is the last 10 years, I've been doing my own magazine online, which
Very
is
nice.
Independent Streak Magazine, which I'm very proud of.
Good for you.
Thank you. And I do that all on my own. The graphics, I go to the events, I take pictures, celebrity photos. I just went to the film festival, took pictures of that, did video and photos of a film panel on film grants, for example. So I'll be writing about that in the next issue. I did video of Sebastian Stan, who is down at the Miami Beach Film Festival. So I'm going to be writing about him in the next issue. I've written about a ton of people that have come to Florida from all over. And you can find that if you go to independentstreakmagazine.com. It's kind of a bare bones website that has all of the magazines, and it's a flip book magazine that you can go through and see everything. And I also have a blog. So I get invited to a ton of events. So if it's not a film-based event, then it goes in the blog. Like I just went to Ignite Broward, a special preview. Before it was even finished, there was like 4 of us with Philip Dunlap from the county commission. And that's like an interactive art event that's still happening right now at Mad Arts in Dania Beach. It's also at the Esplanade Park and Riverwalk and Young Circle in Hollywood. So they have all this public art. So I did an article about that. And anything like food and wine, art, also sometimes films. So any event that I get invited to, I write about it on letstalkmagazine.com.
Very
so
interesting.
I have 2 different things.
I'm going to go over a couple little things, and then I'm going to take over the questioning. I just want to say you've been a jurist for many film festivals, including Savora Fair, Film Fest, what just happened, and others coming up. And then you also used to help run film festivals. So why don't you put those 2 together, and then I'm going to start giving you some questions, and we'll be ready for rapid fire.
So yes, like I said, I just did Savoir Faire, which I always am involved, like taking photos at Fort Lauderdale International Film Festival, which takes place either late October, early November. Well, Gregory Von Hausch, that was in charge of that, is no longer with them. So things are a little different now. They decided to change it and take the short films out of the programming and make a separate festival, which is Savoir Faire. So this was the first time of them doing this. And they asked me to be a jurist. So I just did that. So I got to watch some of the films. It wasn't all of them. And select them and pick out a winner. But the final winners are not just about me. It's like a group of us. But I also have been a jurist in the past, I think twice, for Fort Lauderdale International Film Festival. I was a jurist for the Boynton Beach Film Festival. Flow Film Festival I'm always involved in, which is coming up next weekend. I unfortunately am going to be out of town, so I won't be able to attend. But Wednesday night at Rhythm and Vine, they're going to have a kickoff, which I might be able to go to that. It's my birthday, so that's in Fort Lauderdale. And they always have a networking event ongoing there. And she has a whole bunch of programming happening. So I was kind of like one of the main people for the Flow Film Festival selection committee and jurist as well. And as far as running film festivals, I helped to run the SuperCon film festival that was happening for like 6 years, I think. My friend Kurt and I. So that was all like sci-fi, some different types of films, superhero. It was a mix. And then we left there and we went to Spooky Empire in Orlando and ran that for, I think, 4 years, which was a horror film festival. So I'm kind of known in the horror realm because of that. And just he and I helped select whatever was shown. I was out there talking to the people every year. And then when he decided he didn't want to do it anymore, so we gave it to this great couple, Aaliyah and Brendan, who took it over, who are amazing. And they kept me on because I used to always do moderate a panel of female filmmakers. So they kept me on, I don't remember if it was 1 year or 2, to do that and still do the moderation of the panel. This year, they decided that, I think she probably did it. I'm not positive what they did, but went a different direction this year. So yeah, I did all that as well. So all right. Too many things, I'm exhausted.
Well, I'm sorry, it's my turn now. Rapid fire. Sponsored by the South Florida Tribune and my book, Lessons from the Microphone. And by the way, when there's a second one, I'm looking at my editor right in front of me, Rachel. I'm going to feed you with a lot of hay, and we're going to both eat it real well. And we're going to be meeting and doing a lot of other things. This was just beginning. All right, question number 1. You ever been offered an opportunity to do voiceovers?
I've done a lot of voiceovers, actually.
Yeah. Okay.
I have, yes. A movie called 73 Minutes. I was in Haunting of Whaley House with Jose Prentice as the 911 operator. I was in a movie called Trap. I was several others that I was in. And I did it right with my laptop in my closet. because I have so much junk in my closet. It's like a sound barrier. It's like a sound room. But I'm definitely open for more voiceovers, and that's something that I would love to do.
All right. Well, at the end of the broadcast, you're going to let everybody know how you get a hold of you. So
Okay.
we got the voiceover. So, all right, I'm not done yet. Now it's my turn. I just wanted to hear your story. I still can't believe you did serial killing. That's wow. Really? Seriously? Oh my God. Somebody like you doing serial killer. I look at you as a nice, innocent woman doing that. Really? Seriously? Tell me some of your mentors that you've had along the way that have helped you get to where you are now. There had to be a few special people, but we're going to leave one of them to the end, and you know who I'm talking about. So don't mention that individual's name at the moment, please.
Well, when I first started out, I did an acting class with Bill Smith. He's no longer with us also. But he was my best teacher. He was a great acting teacher. And he was in Colorado. And that class was wonderful because we kind of became a family where we would go to everybody's performances and we would film whatever the scene was. He gave us a lot of background material on Stanislavski and Meisner and different acting gurus. And we would do the scene, a scene study class basically is what it was. And he would film it and then we would watch them and he would give us critiques and then redo it. So that was really great. And I've had a lot of other great acting classes since then. Gosh, you're putting me on the spot here with mentors.
Oh, what do you expect me to do? I'm a professional interviewer, right, Rach? Isn't that what I do?
That's right.
Nobody knows the 5 W's and 1 H better than the two of us, right? 5 W's.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm
blanking out. This is terrible. God.
All right. Well, you mentioned the key one, so don't worry about it.
I want to mention Breck White. He's the person that gave me my first gig at Talent Magazine.
Right.
He really was instrumental with helping me get started in writing, and of course, Bill Heaton. And I kind of want to jump into who you want to talk about.
Well, you will. Give me a second. A couple of other simple things. I know we both do. That's why I'm saving the best for last, as in the eyes of Vanessa Williams. All right, let's talk about time at Deerfield Beach Observer. That's where we met. You know, you obviously were numerous roles. Why don't you talk about each and every one, but leave the Observer TV for next? We'll leave that as a separate situation.
Okay.
What roles did you have over there?
So when I started out at the Observer, which is a local Deerfield Beach it was the newspaper in Deerfield Beach, which everybody still really misses, including mostly myself. I started out as an assistant editor and I moved my way up to editor. And I worked there in total 11 years. Mm-hmm. And basically I wrote a lot of the content, but we also had a lot of columnists and writers, including you, in the sports realm. And I was getting all the content, editing everything, in addition to writing my own, getting photos, putting all that together with the graphic designer, going over where I wanted everything placed, doing the layouts, all of that good stuff. And then I would, run out and do events all the time. And that brings me to being the Observer TV host, which was amazing. And I'm going to mention his name now.
No, go ahead. It was inevitable. Before you do that, Jay Candy put his comments up. We have somebody really seriously. This is what I'm known for, Rach. So he loves it. The Observer, go Pac-12 champs, Oregon State. I couldn't hold you back all the way without mentioning this guy, but I had to. But I do want to ask a little bit about the Observer TV. What was so great about it? I envy you for doing it. And I'll say a little something about the Observer TV is when I saw that the management there, I won't mention names, I just want to keep the idea of Observer TV in its proper perspective. That's what gave me the idea to take the online digital publication that we have here at the Tribune and incorporate the podcast element, both visual and audio. So that idea, which is in my book, by the way, not the one you're going to work, we're going to both work on together. And that's where I got the idea from the Observer to do a format that we do, audio first and then visual, and of course the writing. So I got a lot of the Observer. And I credit my time. So go elaborate a little bit more what it was like doing the Observer TV, and then you can go ahead and we can talk.
We actually have like two people that are special mentions, actually. And one of them that I'll mention now is the person that was instrumental in basically everything I have become, you know, in more recent years. And that was my boss and kind of one of my best friends, Jim Lusk.
Okay.
And unfortunately, he's passed away now. And we still honor him once a year. That's where I saw you last at Christmas time. We do a little cheers to Jim because he loved Duffy's in Deerfield Beach. So we go there for his benefit. But Jim and I would run out the door. He was crazy. He would say breaking news, and he'd take we had this huge, I still have the camera, this huge camera. I can drag it over here. It's this big, I could barely lift it. That he had several of them. And it was from like the 90s. And he'd run out the door and I'd follow him with the cord and everything. And we'd go to a fire or there was a pill mill that he actually was instrumental in taking down the pill mill in Deerfield Beach because we did investigative reporting with Diane went in there as a customer or whatever she did. I don't know. And boy, we did like food and wine events where I interviewed all the chefs. Of course, we did the parade. They just had this last weekend Pioneer Day in Deerfield, and I had to be there. It was tradition for me to go and take pictures just for myself now, pictures and video. And every 2 seconds, I was running out in the middle of the street to hug the mayor and the commissioners and somebody from Deerfield Elementary. And, you know, I know everybody. So, but I used to do that with Jim every year. And it's kind of bittersweet because, and I miss him every day. And we had so much fun. He was nuts, but we had a lot of fun. And there's actually a Jim Lusk Award. I don't know if they gave it out this year for floats because he really made that parade what it was. He got somebody from Back to the Future, like one of those cars, DeLorean, and somebody dressed up as Marty McFly and Doc to come out. He got stormtroopers. Like he would make all these calls and get all these people to come to the parade, tons of people. And he actually built many of the floats himself. And every year he sponsored the Deerfield Beach Little League, and he would build them a float and all the kids would pile on it and he would have breakfast for them. It was really his baby, that parade. So, and then he would go and, film me. And it was broadcast on live stream. Unfortunately, he did not pay, like he didn't know he was supposed to pay a bill or I don't know what happened, but almost all of everything got deleted. So like 240 episodes got deleted, except for the few things that I had saved. It was all gone. Everything I did for all those years is gone. So I have his, now that he passed away, I have his big cameras and all the little tapes, but we couldn't find the machine that translates the tapes. So it's very difficult. If anyone has one, let me know. But, I'm thinking maybe some of that stuff is raw on those little tapes. So I have everything to try to maybe save something from it. But a lot of it's him like skiing, going on vacation and stuff with his family. But like he really, again, saw something in me and I became a host, because of him. And I went on to host many events where I was interviewing filmmakers, and I had another show I was on that I was the host. That was arts and entertainment, and I interviewed Burt Reynolds and different people. So it all started with Jim. And then, of course, can we transfer into the next person we're going to talk about?
Yeah, you can, but we have to go to the chat room. That's our obligation to the people that are supporting this program. So,
okay.
All right, so let's go. Candy, right at the top. We'll start here, and then you can go. Yeah, I know you too. I want to talk about him too. I love the guy. The one I just bought. He's talking about my book there and talk about Jim. I'll put him up, Candy. Don't worry about it. I like that, honoring the inspiration posthumously, without a doubt. I worked with Jim for a while, and he certainly we work well together. No doubt about that. What is a pill mill?
a pill mill is it was like pain pills that people were coming from all over the place, Tennessee, different places, and it was basically they were just handing out all these pain medications, kind of like a drug ring. It was bad news, and it was bringing a lot of bad people into Deerfield. And Jim busted it. It was supposed to be like up and up, but it wasn't. And they had crime tape in the middle of Hillsboro, and Jim had like a flak jacket type thing that I forgot what he was wearing. It was like something saying media something, and they weren't going to let him come to the crime scene. And the chief in Deerfield said he's allowed in. It's because of him that we're here, and this happened. So.
Next question: was there a VW bus of the Iranian terrorists?
No, not in the parade. That's funny.
Yeah, don't worry. That's all we got to address, Rach. Oh no, you didn't store up. Yeah, that's too bad. I don't imagine how much stuff you would have had there, but it is what it is. Let's keep going to the chats. You can pay to have it done. There are places okay, that's good to know. Burt Reynolds and Lonnie Anderson. There's a couple of names out there for you.
Oh, I can tell you a story about that.
Yeah, go ahead. But you want to talk to Jeff? You can wait on Peter. Just go ahead and talk about Lonnie.
Well, I was at, I think it might have been Spooky Empire or it could have been SuperCon with Lonnie Anderson. I was hanging out with Lonnie Anderson in the bathroom and just asking her, how's your day going? And we had a nice conversation. And I didn't know really the ins and outs of her relationship with Bert, that things had kind of gotten really bad with them. I didn't know that. So I said, I'm seeing Bert next weekend. Well, she didn't like that. And very shortly after, she's like, I have to go. And that was the end of that. And then I told someone, and they're like, oh my God, why would you bring that up? And I said, I didn't know. So that was kind of funny. But I saw Bert right before he passed away. A lot of people that I know were very good friends with him. And I wish I would have done acting classes with him because he did them in Jupiter for many years. Yeah. And I didn't. Why? I didn't want to drive. It was really ridiculous. But I did get to interview him, and I just asked him, what his favorite movie was. And he said this one or something. So I saw the last movie that he did, and it was very difficult to watch because he was crying, and it was pretty sad, actually.
Did you once know that he owned a professional team in Tampa called the Tampa Bay Bandits?
I might have heard that before. I don't know.
Yeah, I covered the bandit ball in Tampa. It was a good stuff. All right, now you can talk about Peter Wein.
Okay, so I don't even know when I first met Peter. Peter, like you, has had a show like you do on WEI Network.
Right.
And he was broadcasting day and night. And he would show up at a lot of events that I was at. And I was kind of his go-to person. If somebody didn't show up, he would call me and I would be there. So I was on his show. I don't know how many times that I was on his show. And he used to call me Supergirl. I like to think myself as Wonder Woman, but he called me Supergirl. And, Peter was the best. We were, like I said, we were at a lot of events together, and unfortunately he's no longer with us. And we had a chance to interview some big people and all the red carpets that we were on, and, hung out together. So it was pretty sad to lose him.
Yeah, I went ahead and met him through a friend named Lisa Bartolo. I don't know if you know her at all. And then I met him. We talked a little bit. Then we became partners. The South Florida Tribune and Peter joined forces at the WEI network, which is great. And we started doing the sports exchange, and he helped me revive my on-air career. It was hard to get anything with local radio stations, but when I saw internet radio, that really struck me. I didn't know anything about the cameras. And we struck a partnership that was good, but more importantly, a friendship. And he's listed in my book, Lessons from the Microphone. And you want to talk about the greatest guys on the planet. I'd visit him when he was sick and went to his funeral. And you want to talk about a one-of-a-kind individual. Peter Wein is definitely it. So we'll have to go ahead and share this. I'm going to share this show over to Rachel Wein and let her know that we're going to dedicate the show to Peter Wayne because he's something that's really amazing. And and let me tell you, he spoke highly of you a lot. I said, yeah, I work with Rachel over at the Deerfield Beach. So I don't know if he ever mentioned me to you, but at all.
Yes, he
But
did.
really, no
He
kidding.
did. Yeah, he told me that he was working with you. Yeah, one of the big highlights was we got to interview. It was me, him, Alan Darnay, who's also no longer with us, and I think my buddy Cinema Dave. It was 4 of us on the patio at Savor Cinema in Fort Lauderdale interviewing Karen Allen, who of course was in Animal House, Indiana Jones, a lot of great movies, Starman, and that was really a thrill. Unfortunately, the audio, he taped it. The audio was so bad. I have it and I was going to post it, but it's really crackly, the audio. But I did put her in my magazine. She was on my cover, and I did keep in touch with her for quite a while. I haven't heard from her for a bit, but they had a great Animal House party at a mansion that Peter and Karen and all of us went to. That was really great, where they showed Animal House. That was really fun. But he and I went to the Museum of Discovery and Science together and to an event there. He was just a great guy, really down to earth, and like me, he knew a lot of big people, and he would just talk about anything and everything for quite a while.
Let me tell you, we went to an event in Boca, and the way Peter is with he has like a son to him. He had a couple of daughters, I believe. He ended up getting me to wear this real goofy hat that we took a picture of, and I'm thinking, you know what, Pete? I'm only doing this for you because I don't wear this thing. Yeah, come on, be a sport. Because I love this New York accent. Be a sport. All right, put it on me. And we took a picture. It was a blast. It was a really great photo in every sense of the word. And you know what, guys? I do anything for him, and I always did. I stayed in touch with him. All right, so Jay has a question. When did you write Basics of the Biz? And what was your biggest mistake or risk that you took early in your career? Again,
like I said, I wrote Basics of the Biz back in 2001, and then I revamped it and published it in 2009. I made a lot of mistakes, and that's one of the reasons why I wrote the book, because that way other people won't make my mistakes, hopefully. I really did make a lot of mistakes, and I still do make mistakes. You know, I'm human. But I was in a casting director workshop, and I did quite a few of those. And the person got up and she shared this script. I've got this script for you guys. I read one of the parts, and I didn't think much of the script, but she liked me in it. And if I'm recalling this correctly, she was interested in me being in this part. And I was supposed to go read, you know, like a callback with her for it. And I didn't go. Well, that ended up being the Katie Holmes part in Dawson Creek. So that was a big mistake. Also, I saw a script for another project that I thought, this is never going to go anywhere. And I didn't go. That was Scrubs, which had, 10 seasons? So I did a lot of that where I was like, this is not going to go anywhere. And I didn't go to it. That was some of the stuff I still think about and kind of wonder, what if I had done that? Those are the things that come to my mind off the bat that I did. I know I made a lot of other mistakes, but definitely that for sure.
All right, Jay wants me to know, where's that picture, Scott? Somewhere in my Facebook. I don't know. I'll see. When I dig it up, I'll think about you and try to get it to you. Have your email. This guy, Jay, is incredible. He bought a few of my books. He's got one of the nicest hearts you'll ever meet. And I'll tell you one thing, when he gets into a show, he doesn't hesitate to go ahead and get into it. And he's doing an awesome job tonight. He talks about Dawson's Creek and Burt Reynolds. So anything you want to add to that?
Well, that's kind of like what I said. And I can't think of anything else off the bat that was like a mistake that I made. It probably, if I read my own book, I'll probably find some more. And there's a couple things that have changed since I wrote the book. Like, for instance, like I have pictures of myself in here. Back in those days, back in the day, headshots were black and white. These days they're color. The unions, SAG and AFTRA, were separate. Now they're merged. So those are two of the main things that have changed since I wrote the book. Also, of course, there's the internet now. So there's a lot of casting opportunities online that weren't available back then. In fact, when I was working for the talent management company, we barely got a computer around the time I was leaving. So if an agent called us and said, this is the part I've got, this is, what we're looking for, I would go through the filing cabinet and pull out, it was a kids talent management company, pull out, headshots for whoever was, blonde, certain age group, whatever they were looking for, let's say. And then I'd put together a package in an envelope, address it, and mail it to the casting director or the agent, whatever it was. And then we had like agent workshops. We did a lot of parent seminars, educating parents on the business. In fact, this is really funny. Our office was across the hallway from Brett Ratner, who's a big time director who did Rush Hour and a ton of other stuff. And I had two bosses. One of my bosses had two little kids, and I was young and I was kind of the babysitter. So I was pushing the baby down the hall back and forth and be like, sorry, Brett, with the baby. And I'd have all of these kids that would come in, and we lined up waiting for an agent. Like, we helped them get an agent. We'd have all the agents come in, and I'd be like, shh, you're going to disturb Brett Ratner, so that was kind of funny. There was a lot of casting directors and stuff in that building. So it was right on Santa Monica Boulevard.
I remember Santa Monica Boulevard all too well. All right, let's go back to Jay. I'm going to acknowledge some of his comments. I'll read them to you. You comment if you feel free to do so. It says, you missed some huge opportunities. Darn well, such is life. You didn't have a crystal ball. I appreciate you sharing those, though. All right, we'll keep it rolling. Let's take it from mistakes for successes. Any movement in video games, voice acting, things, leveraging technology. I was shocked at the acting in some of the recent video games. Anything you want to say about that?
I was in a video game actually as an Indian woman, which probably would be frowned upon now. But they put me in, and I think it was called Deus Ex, possibly. That was a long time ago. But they did my whole makeup, and they put is it called a bindi? The little dot here. I'm not positive. I should know that. But yeah, I was an Indian woman, and my husband was known as Yogi, and he's actually famous now. He was a yoga instructor also, and I took his class. Well, now he is the Laughing Yogi, and he's famous on the internet, and he's quite funny to watch. But he was my husband back in that video game or whatever that we did back in the day. I also was supposed to be at a cartoon as a shark. Right. So I was doing a New York accent shark. And it was this really interesting technology from someone that did I don't think I can name too much, but he did a really big popular shark movie that he was working on. I think is still in the works, this cartoon that had to do with sharks. Okay. And there was a lot of technology involved with everything that he was doing. So those are two projects I can think of that involve technology. And I also talked about some of the voiceover work that I've done in the past.
All right, let's keep moving through the comments. I have a policy. I put everything up. Sports Exchange will follow us after we get done, but we're going to continue rolling with the chat. That's the top business. I don't care. I always told you that as long as this thing's rolling, that's exactly what we do. And we do not stop. No Weinstein though, right? Hopefully not.
I got really lucky. As far as acting, I didn't have any problems with that yet. Hopefully not. But I was also a model, and I did have some problems with modeling. And I've done like acting seminars for kids and for everybody. And I've talked about, without giving too much detail, that if you're a parent and you have a child, kind of warn them of the dangers. I've done a lot of things that are probably not the most safe, like going to a casting director or a director's house for an audition is a little tricky, probably not the best idea to go by yourself. As far as modeling, going somewhere with someone and doing pictures by yourself is not the smartest thing to do. I had some problems with that. So, yeah.
Oh, you have another fan here. You have another fan here named Brian Pettit. Like the way you spell it. My middle name is that way. Thanks for joining us, Brian. There you go, Rachel. That's how this show rolls. We keep rolling as the comments come in, and that's when they go. And he reciprocates too. Jay, it's great stuff. This is what we have here. No limits. I don't put time limits on show until we know that we're done. Great show tonight here. I'm pleased to be joined by Rachel Galvin, renowned actress and writer, and of course a very great colleague of mine and a very good friend. Could be more than delighted to have Rachel on, and looking forward to doing more and more projects. As you know, Sports Exchange we'll conclude No Limits. Rachel, it's been so great to have you on. But Candy, go through one more nation break, and then Rachel's going to let everybody know how they get hold of her and purchase her book. Go ahead, Candy.
You are listening to the South Florida Tribune's YouTube channel. The South Florida Tribune Publishing Company, published a book. Excuse me. It's called Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by your host, Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth, who talks about his 40-plus years in the industry and how media has changed over that time. There's actually a picture of Scott, a young Scott with a young Muhammad Ali, and there's a couple other pictures in there too. You'll have to buy the book to see the other pictures and to hear all kinds of stories. It is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. There's also a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. If you like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. Monday nights baseball, Tuesday nights football, Wednesdays, you never know what we're going to be talking about on Sports Exchange, and Thursdays, you never know what we're going to be talking about on Fire Up. But tonight, one-on-one interview on No Limits with Scott and Rachel. And then tomorrow night on another edition of Sports Exchange will be NHL and baseball. If you want to advertise or sponsor a show, call Scott 954-304-4941. And if you want to be a guest or have show ideas, you can always email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Back to you, Scott.
A few more comments I want to put up here, Rach. It was Deus Ex, and that was a big time game, wasn't it?
Deus Ex, yeah.
Yeah. I told you my pronunciation on that was good. Is it good, Rachel? It's great hearing the stories, and thank you for taking the questions. And of course, he talks about having the book, and Candy is a show, 3 Chicks in a Pod, and Chicks and Salsa by that. All right, with that said, Rachel, why don't you let everybody know how they can get a hold of you, buy your book, and whatever else they all want to know. You've made a bunch of fans here on tonight on No Limits.
Okay, I was going to say also, I used to have an audio podcast called Indie Streak on Blog Talk Radio, which is still available if people want to tune into that, where I interviewed filmmakers. It wasn't video like yours, but there was pictures and audio. And I had like 200 some episodes and won an award for that too. So that's Indie Streak, INDIE Streak. My magazine again is Independent Streak, STREAK magazine.com. And my blog is letstalkmagazine.com. You have to put the whole website up there. There's another Let's Talk magazine in England, so sometimes that pops up on Google, so you have to be careful. I'm on Facebook all the time. You can't get me off Facebook. I also have an Instagram where I post everything I'm doing. Like everywhere, every event that I go to, I do a video. So if you really want to know day to day what I'm up to, my Instagram is probably the way to see everything. And that is Writer Rachel, WRITERRACHEL 969. Okay. And you can friend me, like the Instagram, that would be great. And feel free to comment and message me there. I'm on Facebook under my name as well. I don't put as much on Facebook as I do on Instagram, but I do put a lot on there. And again, my Basics of the Biz is under the title on Amazon, Basics of the Biz. So you can check that out. And if you want a signed copy, maybe we can talk and I can send that to you, or however we do that. So otherwise you can order it from Amazon.
There we go, Rachel. Oh, it's okay. I'll give you all the time you want to promote everything you are. That's what it's all about. That's what great friends are for.
And let me just say that I'm really open to acting work right now. I really want to do more acting. So if there's any producers, directors out there that are looking for an actress, I'm looking to expand myself and do different types of roles and voiceover acting. Of course, I'm always available for writing work as well and hosting. So let me know.
Well, I would encourage you to download this and let everybody know that you came on this show, No Limits, and that we talked about what your background is, because what you pretty much did tonight is you had a audio visual resume about your impressive background. So if you want to download this, share it on our YouTube channel, please do it. And if they need a recommendation, they don't have to look any farther than me. I'll be more than happy because of our association with the Observer. And of course, we've been friends for a while and so forth. I couldn't be happier than to have you on the show tonight. It's been great.
Yes.
And I hope that we'll have an opportunity to bring you on again. And one thing Jay wants to ask, have you ever done any short films?
I do mostly short films.
Okay.
I've also done feature films. So I've done a little bit of everything.
There you go, Jay. There you go. I like to cover the book and look sharp. Just so you know, Penguin and Candy and JD Wyatt will be on the Sports Exchange tonight following our broadcast. So, Rachel, thank you very much for being on No Limits. Hope you share it to everybody. But I'm going to tell you, it's been a very memorable night being able to speak to one of my favorite people of all time, and more importantly, a great friend. And I always look forward to seeing the Observer party. But you and I need to get together way before the Observer party.
Well,
and I
let me know.
we totally will. I will. I know your number. You know my number. We message each other like brother and sister is what we do. So,
Thank you so much,
Rachel,
Scott.
well, you're a piece of my family is what you are. And I'm so proud to have you. All right.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Candy.
All right. Well, anyways, that concludes this edition of No Limits. So on behalf of Rachel Galvin, my name is Scott Morgan, North Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us. And Sports Exchange is following No Limits. Take care, everybody. Have a good night. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I have a lot of more things up my bag of tricks when it comes out of the box shows. And we got a good one tonight. Thank you very much, Rachel. God bless.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye.